Shalom Aleichem. Today we'll be learning Daf Lamed Gimel and Beis. We're continuing Torah Chaf Beis. Till now we learned that there are two chasamis, Chosim HaRaglin and Chosim HaYadayim. The Chosim HaRaglin is the chosim of the tzaddikim who bring techacha to Klal Yisrael and their mamlets toiv and Klal Yisrael, and their techacha is accepted and makubal in the chosim hayadayim. That's the chosim b'tei chosim. And the chosim hayadayim is the inyan of Emunah, with which we're makabel the techacha from the tzaddikim. In order to be makabel that from the tzaddikim, you have to be careful. There should not be a kilkul of the chosim hayadayim, which is Emunah, by being makabel Emunah from the Shiva Rayim. What's stopping us from being makabel Emunah from the Shiva Rayim is the azus of the mefisamim, the manhigim, that their whole malchus and manhigus is ba'azus, and only through azus dekdusha we're able to miskaber in their azus. The Rebbe explains this also concerns the guf and the neshama. The neshama wants to be mashpia oris onto the guf, but the azus haguf prevents that from happening. So you need to break the azus. You have to be zeichet the azus dekdusha in order to break the azus haguf. And azus dekdusha is the kailas. The person is mitzi in Torah and tefillah and tzedakah and shofar and all the mitzvahs which have kailas. The only thing is the person has to make sure that his neshama is connected to his guf. That's through his guf doing mitzvahs maisius, to mishamish neshama. And so too, in order for a person to kabel from the Klal Shiva Rayim, the tzaddikim, then we have to make sure you're connected to tzaddikim through shimush tamid v'chamim. So the way you're zeicha that your kailas should bring out the azus is through gichedvas Hashem hi me'uschem. It's through simcha. We said simcha is the simchas olam harosham, which is said by Nasa v'nishma. When Klal Yisrael said Nasa v'nishma, Chazal said there is zeicha to simchas olam harosham. And what's Nasa v'nishma? Every person, kafiz madrega, wherever he's holding right now, whatever he's able to do right now, that's naaseh. And the next madrega, which he wants to be zeichet to, that's his nishma. So when a person is mischazik, whatever madrega he's holding to do whatever he could, which is his naaseh, which is Torah Hashem, which is his Torah, and he's mischazik b'tefillah, in order to be zeichet to the next madrega, which is his nishma, then through that nasa v'nishma, he's zeichet to go to higher madrega and to make his tefillah into Torah, to make his nishma into nasa, and he's zeichet to higher madrega nasa v'nishma. And when you do that, you're zeichet to simcha, and through that simcha, he's zeichet to azus, and that azus sekdusha helps you to makabel. And the Rebbe fears that's pshat in that someone who davens to someone else and who nitzach davar, and he needs the same thing as hunan etechila. So Nasa explains now on Daf Lamed Gimel Beis, that when a person needs something, if I need something, if you need something, and you daven for someone else who needs the same thing, and you put someone else before yourself, that anivus, that means that bittul, that you are mevatel yourself for someone else, that anivus is connected to niv tefillah, because tefillah is connecting to a place which we are not yet masig. It's something which is not yet within boundaries and limitations for us. It's ein sof. It's like connecting to Kodim Abriya. The Rebbe explains it, according to what the Rebbe explained till now, that so when you need something, and who nitzach la'isa davar, and you need the same thing, and you daven for someone else, and you put someone else before you, that bittul connected you to the tchila, to before the bria, when the bria didn't yet have boundaries, when the bria was totally ein sof, which is a place of tefillah, which is a place of Bereshis, is a place which is before everything, and before the world took form, and when you connect to that, and it means you connect to the tefillah of tchila, and hu nana tchila, and that tefillah becomes naaseh, because our tefillah is all to connect to that place of Ein Sof, to a place which we're not yet zeichet to a place which hasn't yet been created for us. And that's the whole Nasa Nishma. And that's Pshat that explains in the Maimer of the Sefer Ditznusa, which this Torah is based on. The Sefer Ditznusa says, Bereshis bara, Bereshis Maimer, bara, Chatzi Maimer, Avu ben. So Bereshis and bara, there are two madregas. A madrega called Bereshis, and a madrega called bara. Bereshis is Yorei Boishis. It's when a person comes with Yira, and he comes with the Busha, that he wants to be Zeicha to another Madrega. He wants to be Zeicha to come up to a higher Madrega. He's not satisfied with what he has right now. He knows there's higher Madregas which he hasn't yet been Zeicha to, and he's davening to be Zeicha to that. That's Tefillah. Because Yira is Hashem, He Tesalo. Yira is Tefillah. So to be Zeicha to that, Bereshis, through that Bereshis, you're Zeicha to Bara. To Bara is the Klal of Bria. You're Zeicha to the Bria that actually becomes, which we said, that there's a Madrega, that the Nishma, the Tefillah, becomes Torah, becomes where you're actually holding. And that till now I was holding whatever Madrega, and through Tefillah, and through connecting through Tefillah to the Bereshis, you can be Zeicha to Bara. And that's why Bereshis is a Maimer and a Chatzi, and Bara is a Chatzi Maimer. Why? And that's Av Uben. The Av, a father, is a complete Maimer. A Ben is like a Chatzi Maimer. Why is that? A father speaks clearly and expresses himself. A child is someone who doesn't yet express himself clearly. It's a Chetzi Maimer. So too, the Klolius Abriya is which is on the lower Madrega of the Bereshis. So it's a lower Madrega than the Bereshis. It's only a Chetzi Maimer. It's only a Ben in relative to the Av, to the father, to the Maimer, which means that the Madrega which I'm on now is a lower Madrega than the Madrega which I want to get to. My Torah is a lower Madrega than my Tefillah. I want to be Zeicha to Tefillah. That my Tefillah should become Torah. That right now, wherever my Bara is, I want to be Zeicha to another Madrega Bereshis. And also, that's why Amunah is called Yishalayim, there it says. Because Yira Shalem, Yerushalayim is in the trikin of the words Yira Shalem. Why? Because in Yerushalayim you have Yira and you have Shlemus. And that's also Bereshis, Yira and Boishis. And that's the Maimer Shalem. Where do you have the Shlemus? Where do you have Yerushalayim? That is, where do you have this Yerushalayim carrying the mana, the Amunah? It's through this avodah of Nasa v'Nishma, of connecting to the Madrega which I am on now, and connecting to the next Madrega through Tefillah. And that's through Gira and Boishis. Gira is Tefillah, and Boishis is a busha that I have, that I want to be Zeicha to the next Madrega I haven't yet been Zeicha to. And that's why we say the Iker Bini of Amunah, which is Yishalayim, carrying the mana, we Zeicha through Tefillah, which is Yira, which is Maimer Shalem. And that's Edus Hashem Nemana, Edus Hashem, which is the two Edus, the two crowns of Nasa v'Nishma, we Zeicha through Amunah. And that's how we're Zeicha to this Amunah of the Chosim Hayadayim, through the hands through which we are Makabal, and we accept and receive the Ha'ara from the Tzaddikim. And that's why the Pasuk says, Misham Roya Even Yisrael, that the Targum says, Of Uben, that's the Maimer Shalem, which is the Av, Beven Kachad, and the Chatzi Maimer. And that's how we're Zeicha to Misham Roya Even Yisrael, that's how we're Zeicha to the Shiva Royim, the Kolis Shiva Royim, the Tzaddikim, where Mashpiyat Nasamuna. Rebbe says weiter, when a person wants to go up from one madrega to the next, I'm holding by one nase, I want to be zeicha to the nishma. In order to be zeicha to that nishma, I need to have a yerida before that aliyah. Like we spoke before, every time there's a hisarius of a koil of a kedusha, then connected that is a koil of havara, the koil of an echo of all the avoinus, of all the gashmias that I have, which call out when they see that I'm trying to be zeicha to kedusha. So there's a yerida before every aliyah. And that's what Chazal say that loya David roy la'isa ma'isa, loya Yisrael ruim la'isa ma'isa. That Chazal bring down that Klal Yisrael, when Klal Yisrael fell into, it was Nichshel and fell into Averis, when David HaMelech fell, really they weren't on the Madrega to fall into Averis, but the reason why they had to was in order to be zeicha to the next Madrega, and that's Pshat, that Chazal say, Elu Divrei Torah, she'ein adam oimed aleim, that a person cannot be oimid, and the Pashut means that a person can never really understand Torah, until first you trip up in Torah, which means first you don't understand and then you do understand. The Rebbe explains that to be nichshel and in order to be zeicha to the oimid is like tefillah. Amida, the tefillah of Shemona Esrei is called amida, and aleihem. If you want to be zeicha to higher tefillah, right now I'm on one madrega of Torah and I have a higher madrega of tefillah. I want my tefillah to become my Torah so I can be zeicha to higher madrega of tefillah. Then I want to be zeicha to oimid aleihem. The way you zeicha to that is through elim ke nichshel alehem, which means that I go through some type of yerida, and through that yerida, if I'm mischazek b'shas yerida, if I'm mischazek b'schazkas, to hear the chizuk of the tzaddik, that not to get carried away and schlepped away in the yerida, but to continue to daven and to connect myself to tefillah and to the Yiras Hashem and to keep on davening to be zeicha to the next madrega, even though I hear the koil of the azas of the guf and of the taivas of my yeridas and my mechshela, then I'm zeicha to nishma gavaya yoser. And that's pshat. The Rebbe says in B'yom Hahu Yevukash Avon Yisrael V'nenu that the Asad Lavai, then the pasuk says they're going to look for the avonis, the various of Klal Yisrael, and they won't be able to find. Pshat means they're going to look for the avonis of Klal Yisrael. And Klal Yisrael will be such madrega they won't have a various anymore, so they won't find any. The Rebbe explains why is that, because the Asad Lavai everyone will be zeicha to tshuva. Tshuva is that this tefillah, that person is always davening to zeicha to higher madrega, and if a person does tshuva ma'ava, then his doinis nasan schuyas, then his averis, that when he does tshuva properly for it, they become schuyas for him. And the averis of Klal Yisrael will become Torah. That machshel zes tachas yodecha, that all the yeridas are the sapech la'aliyas, and la'asad lavei, people will be looking, what was I nichshal in it? Maybe I look back on my life, instead of denying all the horrible things and bad things that I did, but to look back and say, to mechapes of Yisrael, maybe there's some other yerida that I had that I could daven and be mahapech et l'tayva by doing tshuva and looking. If I was nichshal on something, that's a siman that through that kishalon I could be zeicha to an aliyah. That's a siman. The reason why there was a koil of azus, the Sitra Achra, the reason why there was a koil of azus, of koil avara, was because I could have been zeicha then to some mordika kedusha, to be zeicha to that my tefillah should become Torah, that my nishak should become naaseh, and I can mahapech my avanis l'schuyas. And that's by Yamu Yevukash Avan Yisrael V'nenu, that people will be looking at all the kishleinis that there were, and davening to be zeicha to do tshuva, or to be zeicha that all the yehidas should become tachas aliyah. And that's pshat in Nasem Averes B'ches Machshela Shotayra, that everything, all the Machshela Hazois tachas yedecha, and all is divrei Torah, who should be zeicha should become the Asad Lavei B'mheri Amenu, everything, all the sapech kol avanis l'schuyas, and all the Yeridas, La'aliyas Gedalis.